get construction crews in here by Columbus Day, so you got a guesstimate how long?
I've got 4 really good guys. 1 week, we're gone.
That's fast.
I need the job.
So the loonies are outside in the real world, and here we are with the keys to the loony bin, boys.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
I'm Aaron. Hello.
Okay. Each week.
Video.
For those of you guys just joining us, we now have YouTube. So you'll be able to watch us if you so desire, or just listen to our dulcet tones. It's totally up to you. That being said, each week on the podcast That Wouldn't Die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist. This week we're just twist and shout. This week we're discussing the horror classic Session 9, starring David Caruso, Josh Lucas, and others. Good times. So how you doing, Aaron?
Oh. My God. Okay, I told you I was off the TikTok except the post.
Yes.
But every now and then I sneak a peek, and then it's like an hour later. And it's like my new obsession is Irish people trying American drinks, or British people. They give American food to British school children. So I watched them eat. First, they gave them biscuits. They're like, that's not a biscuit. That's a scone. That's a scone. And then...
Okay, that's important.
They said it was better than a scone. And then they poured white sausage gravy over the whole thing. And their eyes like lit up like a dog had puked over it. They were horrified just by the look of it.
So biscuits and gravy is what they were having.
Biscuits and gravy.
Okay. And
they were horrified, and they took like tiny tastes, and then they go, Americans are so lucky. This is amazing. And then I watched them eat flaming hot Cheetos.
Also delicious. I don't think we've told our listeners that ostensibly, I guess we consider ourselves vaguely Irish as a family. Would you agree with that?
It is true, because now on my feed, there's some dude who's just like, random Irish shit, and I can't stop watching him. And when we get done with this, I'll send you a link of him rambling. I keep sending it to Bobo.
And that's what I was going to say. So as a family, we are vaguely Irish, except we have one brother who behaves as though he has kissed the Blarney Stone. Like he was fresh off the boat from Belfast, fresh from the Troubles. And has a strong kinship, in my opinion, too strong a kinship with his Irish heritage. What say you?
We literally don't have relatives that we could name for like 5-6 generations. Like here in Kern County, everyone who's Italian gets citizenship for their children, right? So even though they have never set foot in the mother country for 2 generations, as long as you just keep applying, you can do that. So
they have blood citizenship, is what it is.
Blood citizenship.
Yes.
So we looked it up for the Irish, and quite frankly, the Irish are pretty. I think it's like you can go back like 4 generations, right? A generation is 10 years, but anyway,
a generation is only 10 years. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I guess I got it wrong.
20?
A generation is 10 years, but when it comes to this thing, it couldn't be mom. It couldn't be grandma and grandpa. Right. It would have to be like the next one or the next one. So
great grandparents.
We were off, so we couldn't do it. So we don't know anyone there. Let's just say that.
We can't trace our route.
And just to set it straight, we did not come with the famine. We were not immigrants of dire straits.
Do you know that? You don't know?
I do know that.
How do you know that?
To come to America. I heard it somewhere.
So anyway, we have one brother who feels he is first generation. Despite all evidence to the contrary. That's neither here nor there.
Well, we had a grandmother who cried a Danny boy, even though she'd never, it'd been generations before, even that level.
Oh, Danny boy. The pipes, the pipes.
I never knew who the hell's this Danny Boy and what are the pipes. But anyway, the other
We
thing
digress.
was we digress about our fake Irishness. We did. Everybody in this family except me, who had the good sense, had to go do Ancestry, 23andMe, whatever. And
Right.
each time it showed we are barely Irish. It
There's
doesn't matter what
Irish. We're not
Because I'm
50%.
sure- No. We're
No.
like 20%. We're
Right.
mostly like Scandinavian and then generalized Western Europe.
It is, yes. We are 25% sub-Saharan African, 25% Sephardic Jew. And-
We are 7% Japanese.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
Enough of your other bullshit. But no. We were not Italian.
No.
We were, even though we had some relative, there's a picture of some relative who looked like a cross between Karl Marx and,
Jesus.
oh my God, who wrote Huckleberry Finn?
Oh, Mark Twain.
A combination of those, and I remember
Yep.
seeing on the back it said Odessa. So apparently they immigrated there. They didn't stop to reproduce there.
This is lovely. I'm sure people are just dazzled by this genealogy. Let's jump back.
Let's just be clear. I'm Aaron. If you say it like the old country, oh Doherty, and there's my wee brother Kevin,
That's
and then
correct.
there's Patrick, Megan, Tara. I
Yep.
mean, they're leaning heavy on the Irish.
Oh, no question. No
When
question.
in reality, I could have been a Yoko Ono Doherty. I don't know.
Yoko Doherty?
I mean,
Okay.
it's 7%. I'm twice as Irish as I am Japanese, but I'm compared to the Scandinavian that we are also. That blows everything out of the
Yes.
water.
Well, we're very tall and fair-skinned. Anywho, that's not
I
the
went
there.
to Ireland. I assume when I tried to go through castles that were going to hit me clear in the face, I had to crawl over like one of those roly-polies just to get up some of these staircases. So I'll just tell you this. The story of the leprechauns, that's just the Irish people.
No, you.
It's the Norsemen rolling into Ireland and seeing a bunch of red-haired midgets, and then boom, that's where the story of the leprechauns. We were malnourished thanks to the dirty Brits, and we just keep shrinking and shrinking. At one point, I think we were smaller than the pygmy people, but I don't think they're called the pygmies.
Well, let's be honest, Aaron. You were so tall, Jack would need some magic beans to go visit your house. Essentially,
How dare you,
okay.
sir.
Let's call it what it is.
Say that my Scandinavian side.
That must be it. Okay, I keep trying, ladies and gentlemen. I try to get us back on track. It's hard work. Give us your 30-second synopsis, Aaron, on session 9, please.
Asbestos abatement is not as fun as you might think if your boss is a little touched. And if he is, it might be a time. First, once he estimates 1 week to clear out about 100,000 square feet of asbestos, that's the time you start calling in sick. You got the vid. You start applying other places.
Black lung.
You've got, what is it, mesothelioma? You
Mesothelioma.
get out of there.
Yeah.
Because your boss is insane and you're going to get lobotomized. The end.
Good stuff. Now, you had never seen this before. Is that correct, Aaron?
I literally, I had this list in my phone under notes, and I have like 6 pages with story ideas. And I have session 9 keeps coming up, and I knew nothing about it when I recommended. I just knew that everybody's like, session 9, session 9, session 9. I was like, Plan 9 from Outer Space? No. And then I thought it was the show with the aliens and the apartheid.
What was that
District
thing?
9.
District 9 with the
And then there's
prawns.
a movie called 9. What's the deal with the 9?
The 9. Yes, it's a reoccurring motif.
My goodness. It's all bad is what it turns out to. Anything with the 9 in it is either an alien ghetto, an insane asylum, a sad little sock puppet. It's all bad.
It's the way the Germans say no. I mean, it's not a good combination. I'd only heard of this movie because, like I do, I watched a documentary. It was like one of those the 50 scariest or freakish something.
Is this the
exactly.
Eli Roth one?
No, it was a different one. It was the shocking, most surprising horror endings or something. One of those things on Shudder, and they talked about Session 9, and I had never heard of it before. And I knew it was supposed to be kind of a haunted asylum thing, which of course I'm like, I'm in. Haunted asylums.
Haunted. That's all
I'm
you
in.
need.
That's all you need to know.
Cuckoo's Nest, but with none ghosts.
Exactly.
It
writes itself, for God's sakes. So I knew nothing about it.
How about this? What if Jack Nicholson was never in a cuckoo's nest? He was just a phantom. Or what if the Native American dude who kills Jack Nicholson at the end is in fact a phantom? All that.
So how do phantoms lobotomize each other? That's my question. We're going off on it.
It varies from ghost story to ghost story. I mean, of the horror movies we see, all the ghosts can do you damage. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to scare you, but if you're not scared, I just go sit in the corner and cry my ghostly tears.
Your ghostly tears,
one way or another.
Interesting.
Right? Am I right?
You're right. Depends on the movie.
I mean, what are you saying? It sounds like crazy talk to me. What movie have we seen where it was a haunted house where the ghost was like, whatever, if I can't scare you, I'm out?
I'm trying to... I saw The Haunting of Hill House. Well, they didn't do anything to you. I think they cause you to like hallucinate, and then you fall off the thing. And
she drove her car into the tree or whatever.
That'll do it every time.
But you never know whether that is real or she's just crazy. And I think it's not a haunted house at all, and she's just crazy.
It's always, you can't take it off the table. But why don't we jump right in to the goodness?
Oh, you want to talk about this movie?
Yes.
Session 9?
Well, we're 15 minutes into the show. I figure at some point we might want to get on board here.
First of all, it opens up with a couple of dudes in a car. I thought they were undercover cops, but I was still obsessed with the giant container of baby wipes on the dashboard.
Yes.
I'm like, is somebody turning tricks or what? What is this? Is that you ready? You got your horse bath ready to go?
So you see baby wipes. And you feel, obviously, that's the paraphernalia of someone turning tricks.
I see two grown men who both look like they've been living hard and a giant container of baby
Costco
wipes.
Size. Yeah, no question.
Costco size.
Industrial.
Both of them look like they've been sleeping rough, so it's not out of the realm.
Well,
the fact that one of them might have procreated and had a baby.
Yes. Not for long.
That did not enter my mind at all at that point.
I was bowled over when I saw a close-up of David Caruso. When Caruso turns to the camera, I'm like, whoa! Caruso's in this bad boy?
First of all, he's an angry albino, and this is probably... I mean, David Caruso's David Caruso. The best thing he ever did was Jade, so...
Jade!
It's always back to Jade.
It is, with Chaz Palminteri.
Palminteri's greatest role with that great song by Lorena McKennitt.
Sing it.
I can't remember. But I did go out
such a good song.
This CD. It's all that kind of Irishy whooping and wailing.
Only thing I remember about Jade is hysterical blindness. That's what it is. And perhaps, I think that was one of the afflictions that they mentioned during the course of this movie. Honestly, they
Every
were
time
like,
I hear a hysterical blindness, I want to think that I laughed so hard I just went blind because my senses were overloaded. But
that's what
unfortunately,
happens.
that's like if you saw the original Dave Chappelle and the Tales of Charlie Murphy, that would cause hysterical blindness. The Tales of Super Freak, that would have done it.
No
But
question.
sadly, it doesn't work that way.
Not that much about the current Chappelle's work. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, he is not as funny. He's got a real hard edge. I think Tara saw him. I'm sure he's still funny, but go back and rewatch Chappelle Show.
No
You'll get
question.
hysterical blindness.
Hysterical. Another thing they mentioned in this movie, it was called if I could, Mortified Pride or something like that.
Oh my god, that was one of the best parts when so they're doing asbestos abatement in an insane asylum, and the best part of course, they filmed it in a real
Yes.
closed down insane asylum for monetary issues, I'm sure. But they found these giant books with like insane diagnosis, like
Right.
first draft Sigmund Freud, you know.
Right where it was like, I'm trying to remember. One of them was like wouldn't obey or something. Like it was one. I don't know if that was one.
Back, very common with the teenage insane asylum children.
Well, I appreciate the fact that the asylum closes and they just leave all the files for local denizens to come just read at their leisure, I guess.
Every horror movie, that is what they do. They just boogie out, like the coffee's still on the table and every record is still there.
Just left. Now, granted, if it's been 100 years, who gives a damn? But at some point, it was last week.
I think
right?
this place closed like in the 80s. So
Right.
potentially these folks are still kicking it.
Absolutely. At some point, it was last Tuesday, and somebody's like, wait a minute. Oh, my confidential records you just left in there? That ain't right.
You son of a...
I'm feeling some hysterical blindness coming on. Get it together.
Uh-oh.
Just one eye. One eye. That's one eye patch.
Mini stroke, hysterical blindness. Who can tell?
Now, I have to say, I found this movie very creepy, but I felt at the same time, the moment you know what it's all about, it ceases to make as much sense. What are your thoughts?
I gotta tell you, I was watching it and I kept waiting. I'm like, are they Blair Witching me? Like where I'm waiting all the way to the end for the big reveal and nothing comes. And then at the end, I was like, what's happening? I literally I was like such a dum-dum. And honestly, I watched it in the morning. I was drinking my pot of coffee. So I should have been fully awake and ready to go. And it wasn't until after it was over and I was like doing something. I was like, oh.
Okay, so, we're just going to dive right in. I don't give a damn. Spoilers aplenty is what I say.
One baby wipes on the dashboard.
Wear the baby wipes when you need them. What is your theory about what is happening in this movie?
So my theory is it's just a coincidence that they discovered the session 9 tapes that the psychiatrist, one of the laborers finds an old reel-to-reel and just for shits and giggles pops it in and is listening to people's sessions.
I mean, he's obsessed. He's obsessed. Like literally, he's ditching. Like, hey, we got to find Hank. He's missing. Okay, I'm gonna go check over here, and then he just goes and listens to more tapes.
I mean, it was interesting. So my take on it is the ending. It's just revealed that he is also has the multiple personalities, just like the person in session 9, and that's it.
Ooh, so you think it's a multiple? They kind of suggest. Okay, I guess we gotta explain what's happening.
Simon, the last personality of the girl, talks about he only comes out in people with like damaged
weak and broken, or
the weak and broken, and so that tripped me into that the boss has multiple personalities because he was having. First of all, I knew he had murdered his family. Bang. From the
When did you
beginning.
know? From the beginning, you knew he'd murdered his family.
When he was sitting out and they would appear to be looking at him, but the wife was concerned and he's looking at the phone, I was like,
And
oh,
you're ahead of me.
this mofo. I don't know why. I mean, but I'm like, yeah, they're all dead. They're all dead.
That's the grand reveal, because he's like, I couldn't get to sleep last night. The baby still got an earache. Blah 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 blah. And then later it's like, oh, I hit my wife the other day, and I've been staying at a motel. And then at the end, the grand reveal is he murdered his wife, he murdered his baby, and what? So.
And then either murders or lobotomizes everyone on his team.
Yes. Which it seems like, looking back, that it's just a bizarre coincidence that he's at a quote-unquote haunted asylum. If they were at the local county library just doing asbestos work there, the exact same thing would have happened. Right. It's just a bizarre... I mean, that's the way it seems. It seems like he was already kind of hanging by a thread. Because whenever you see in movies where it's like the guy pulls up in his car and has to like sit in his car for a moment to get used to the idea of entering his house and seeing his family, know that's bad. That ain't good.
I mean, it could be that... baby's crying, you're not sleeping, you snap. I mean, you don't kill your whole family, but people
you might say an unkind word, right?
People do crazy shit. I mean, usually they just throw the baby out the window.
Usually. Usually that's what happens.
I mean, you go to the source of of all your suffering, and that is the baby that never can get settled, which is clearly possessed by the devil.
Interesting.
But there was a trigger. His wife spilled boiling water on him.
He was making pasta. Right.
And went into a frenzy. He just broke. And that happened before the movie started, like that day or the night before, something like that.
It was after he got the job, because he went and got flowers to celebrate.
You're right. So we start, they're still alive. We don't see them get killed.
Before they start working on it, though, she's dead.
She's dead, and he is slowly becoming more and more unhinged from that moment on.
More unhinged than killing your entire family.
Well, he came to work, he seemed to be okay, but now he's suspicious of everybody. It's like a whole thing.
Now, at the end, they kind of suggested that he was like in a sleepwalking kind of thing was going on, because there was a lot of come back was kind of the reoccurring when they were talking on the walkie-talkies, hey, come back. And then at the end, David Caruso was like, you need to open your eyes, you need to wake up, kind of thing.
So when he was did David Caruso... I almost asked if David Caruso actually exists, but he did.
He absolutely
existed. By the end, whatever he's doing is paralleling what we're hearing on the tapes, where each of the personalities of the person on the tape is asleep. And you need to wake them up. They're asleep, and I need you to wake up Billy. I need to talk to Billy. Billy's asleep. Wake up Billy.
So, okay. They bid on cleaning out the asbestos and all the cancer-causing crapola at the asylum because they can't tear it down because it's what am I trying to say? It was preserved.
Biohazard or whatever.
No. It was like, you can't tear it down because it's like been preserved. Historical landmark of some sort of thing. So they have to, before they can do anything else with the property, they have to clean this out.
It's massive. It's massive property. It's like 100,000.
It's huge. It's literally, I mean, it's like a mansion's mansion. I mean, it is frickin'
It looks like one of those New England brick-covered universities from the outside.
Absolutely. Outside, it's like a gorgeous place. Like if you could live, I mean, ignoring the fact it's an insane asylum, it would be a nice place to live. I mean, just aesthetically from the outside. But Caruso's like, well, it's going to be at least 3 weeks. And the guy's like, 2 weeks. We can do it in 2 weeks. And then as I walk out there, it's like, you know what? We can do it in 1 week. And the guy's like, how do you take the bid from the dude who's like, hey, we're so desperate. We'll tell you whatever you want to hear. Because you know it's, A, they're going to do a half-assed job. Ignoring the fact that he's a psychopath is going to murder his entire team. He's not going to do a good job in a week when initially they're like, this is a 3-week job.
It's 5 guys. It is
5 guys.
5 guys. It is 100,000 square feet.
Absolutely.
What's the math there? First of all, the first day, they do nothing but dick around. The second day, they do nothing but dick around. So how is this ever going to get done?
Well, and I thought the only way they're going to get it done is if they're working around the clock. And they were clocking out at 4:30. They're like, okay.
Long lunches, where they're out in the garden, smoking weed. There was no urgency whatsoever. The first day, it was like 10 o'clock and they hadn't even begun. I think they just put some plastic up maybe the first day.
Right.
It was ridiculous. There was not even they were going to get one room swept with the amount of nonsense. They're going to get a $10,000 bonus for finishing this. You're going to need to hire every asbestos abatement dude in the tri-state area.
Absolutely.
To get over there.
No question. It was kind of ridiculous because you had the boss, whose name Gordon. Was that his name? Yeah. Gordon was the boss. Then you had David Caruso, who's like his buddy, typical Caruso. Then you had Josh Lucas, who was Hank, who I guess is kind of a slacker and had stolen David Caruso's girlfriend. And you're waiting for them to start fighting constantly because he was constantly rubbing his nose and like, I took your girlfriend. I'm just sleeping with her to get his goat. That's why you moved into her just to... Good Lord.
Caruso is like the angriest albino that God ever put on the earth. Angrier than that albino from that Da Vinci Code movie or whatever it was. I would agree. And
Much angrier.
And the reddish auburn hair just emphasizes the rage and insanity.
No question. So you got those guys. Then you got a guy who was training to be a lawyer but left law school and now just does this.
He had like a Full Metal Jacket vibe going on. I was waiting for him to go buck wild.
And then the last guy is the new guy on the team, some dude with a mullet, which tells you that something's already unhinged, clearly, who doesn't know what he's doing. So this is the team. This is the A team.
Nephew. It was somebody's jackass nephew.
It was Gordon. It was the boss's nephew.
It reminded me of when Michael in The Office hired his nephew, who later went on to do all the American Horror Stories. But then by the end, Michael had finally cracked and was like trying to spank a 30-year-old.
That's what this movie's about. So that's the crack team that they're going to knock this out, a 3-week job in 1 week. So they're already, but I have to say, because they cut to, it's after hours. There's Caruso at the bar by himself drinking. There's Hank sitting in his chair while Amy, the angry girlfriend's yelling behind him while he's tuning her out. And then there's Mullet Guy just in the shower. Seems like he's fine. The most well-adjusted of the bunch.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. First, just the whole plan made no sense. Yeah. And then, I mean, it was creepy. I don't understand the crack in the wall full of gold teeth, silver coins, and I mean, was Mangala stashing treasure there?
Yes, he was.
No goddamn sense.
So, and this is kind of like, is it haunted? But they showed it was basically the back of the furnace of the crematorium was packed full of all this silver and stuff.
Right. So, silver would melt in the back of a crematorium, and half the stuff had a paper tie identifying what it was in the back. Yes. So that made no damn sense either.
So Hank comes there late at night to basically steal all the loot that he found.
He
And
was just there. Put it in your pocket on your way out. You
No
gonna
one's gonna
break
say
into
anything.
the insane asylum in the middle of the night after working a full day?
That's the craziest thing of all. Look,
It
I'm a grown
wasn't.
man.
It wasn't that much stuff. You could have just stuffed it in your lunchbox.
You're right. No question. I mean, like I was saying, it's like I'm a grown man. Okay, I know that there aren't ghosts. I guess I'd like to think I know that. But if you put me in an asylum in the middle of the night by myself and only my thoughts and my flickering flashlight, I'm going to have an accident. I'm going to piss myself.
That's like that old MTV show, like Fear, where they just drop you into places with your friends. The lights go out, there's tapping, and by the end, everybody's screaming and wetting themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's
telling them it's haunted. They started hearing things and seeing things.
No question. So Hank sees a figure in the dark. He's running for his life. Guy comes around the corner, and then Hank doesn't show up for work the next day.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That was a good moment.
That was a good moment. I was not expecting to see old Hank again.
So, but
he looked like he just rolled out of oh my God, Boogie Nights. That's what he looked like. He looked like the dude from Boogie Nights.
Thomas Jane, he was Todd Parker.
Yes, 100%.
No question. We had the handlebar mustache. No question. Okay, but here's my question. I was convinced that Caruso paid because he's paying some dudes. Did you notice that during lunch there's like two randos who shows up, and Caruso's there's some money exchanged between Caruso and these two randos.
And first Caruso denies it. And
I don't know
then
what you're talking
about. I don't know what you're talking about. You're getting paranoid. And then all of a sudden, just randomly, he's like, well, that's why I was paying off those taggers so they could get out of there.
Right. So go ahead.
Is Gordon hallucinating some of these interactions? Or is Caruso just a shady
I thought that he paid a couple of thugs to go kill Hank, is what I thought had happened. That was my working theory, especially in that moment when they're like, where's Hank? Where's Hank? He's like, well, does anybody have Amy's number? We should call Amy to see where Hank is at. And Cruz is like, oh, I'll call her. Hang on. Oh, he went to Miami to go to casino school? Okay, well, hey, he's a flaky guy. So now, later in the movie, we discover that Hank was attacked by Gordon, not David Caruso. And he got like a probe or something jammed into his eyeball.
It's with the special lobotomy tool.
With the special lobotomy tool, and he was just kind of wandering like a zombie after that. So my question is,
how did he even get it? Because Hank had it.
It
was one of the things that fell out.
Yes.
Was a sterling silver, brain splitter.
That's exactly what it's called. Yes. So that's the question.
You're separating the two hemispheres. That's what they're doing.
So here's my question. Was David Caruso lying in that moment? Or had Hank really told Amy, I'm out of here. I'm going to grab this stuff and go to Miami to go to casino school, and then he just got killed or lobotomized before he could do it? Or is Caruso lying, or what's happening?
See, that's what it is. I kept trying to figure out, because Caruso was acting as strange as Gordon.
Yes, he was.
And I could not figure it out. Now, why would Caruso be following him? That seems like way too much effort. You know what I mean? But Gordon is basically living there now.
He is. Yeah, he's stalking the place after murdering his family. He is unhinged. And we don't know all this until the final moments of the show.
He has nowhere to go. I think a couple nights he slept in front of his house, but basically he's up all night. He's not sleeping. He's seeing things. He's becoming super paranoid because of the sleep deprivation. And eventually, or I don't even know eventually, at one point, he's not Gordon, I think.
Right.
It's that, whatever, Clive, Stewart, whatever.
Simon. Simon,
Simon. I knew it
not
was some crazy
Clive.
British. It was some British name. It was Fiona.
Could be. Could be. So there's the other guy, I think his name was Mike, who went down, the circuit was blown, and then he stumbles into the records room and for no reason at all, spontaneously opens up the box for one of the clients, and discovers like each of their sessions is a separate reel-to-reel tape. And they're working their way towards session 9. And I guess session 9 is the one where they reveal the Simon character, the alter ego or the split personality, who murdered her brother and her family.
Right. She's there for murdering her whole family, but then session 9, in 9 days, I'm guessing we cracked the whole case.
We cracked the case. Spills the beans, because we don't know why she's there until session 9, and then it's all
not like
revealed.
We see her or know her or anything. It's just he randomly found this box of tapes.
That's correct. And for some reason, it's like
he's not abating. He's just hanging out, smoking the marijuana and just listening.
Well, again, aren't you on a time frame here that you got to finish hours?
There's no urgency. I guess they're like, we ain't getting the 10,000. We got to pay us a daily rate, whether win, lose, or draw.
Win, lose, or draw. Very sad. But again, in retrospect, it has nothing to do with anything. It's just kind of a creepy little sub-story. Because we don't think that Gordon's possessed, right? Because he was already acting like wonky before they actually started working in the place.
Right. It was weird conversations. Like these guys had never been around people who had small children. They're like, I think for some people, they should never have children. Why? Because he's tired and grouchy. I mean... This is before they realize that he's lost his ever-loving mind. So in the end, they were correct. But really? You've been around him for like a couple of days, and he's just kind of dopey. I've totally worked with men who are just like, because no one's getting sleep. You think he looks like shit, you got to go see the wife who's on duty 24 hours a day with a baby who's not sleeping.
Oh, no question. Well, and then Hank, worldly Hank is like, this should be his pride and joy. He should be the love of his life. And the guy's like, well, raising children is difficult work. Maybe one day when you and Amy have children, you'll understand. He's like, Amy? I'm just throwing a shot into her to piss off David Caruso. What are you talking about? It's guy talk. That's how we talk to each other. Sweet Jesus.
Thank you, Donald Trump.
It's just pillow talk.
Billy Bush, right?
Yes. So there's poor Billy Bush. So then there's the end. The grand conclusion is they find Hank, and the reveal is he's wearing his sunglasses. They pull the sunglasses off, and that's when you see the tool is just in his crazy. I was like, oh, did you see that coming?
I did not. I had no idea. I was like, he's dead. This is a ghost. I never was going to put together that he was lobotomized. Look. I was not going to think that at all.
That was a powerful moment. I was like, whoa! When that was the real.
Jumps up. I was like, shit.
Yes.
He's still alive and kicking at the state asylum. He didn't get killed, did he?
No, he's still wandering around, I guess, right?
They Francis Farmered him. He's still bumping around into chairs and trying to tie his shoelaces at this point.
Well, it can't be. I mean, pulling, that was a crazy moment. When Gordon reaches down and pulls the probe or whatever out of his head, and you see Josh Lucas's like head come up, and you see the thing coming out of his eyeball. I was like, oh my God. That was a moment. That was something serious.
I mean, they go in and it just kind of pushes, and you gotta just do a little tap, and then they get in there and they just go.
Very scientific. Very scientific.
I took abnormal psychology in college. Of course, we discussed that. Plus, I saw Francis, in case you haven't seen that.
What is Francis?
It's The chick from American Horror Story, Jessica Lange,
Okay.
plays old-timey actress Frances Farmer, who's kind of a wild child, kicks up her heels, stops listening to her controlling mother, and her controlling mother has her institutionalized and lobotomized.
Well, that's the Kennedy story as
Yeah,
well. That is if I wasn't familiar with that. It's what was the name of the Ethel Kennedy? No, it wasn't Ethel. Who was it? It was the
Rose?
eldest daughter, Rose Kennedy. Maybe that's who it was.
Maybe it was Rose.
And it was like she was born with kind of intellectual disabilities. I think it was like a
Right,
rough birth. And as she got older, she got more and more unruly.
right.
And the doctor said, "Hey, we'll just go in there, do a little snip, and she'll be fine." And she went from being like kind of a fifth grade level to like an infant, basically
Right.
for the rest of her life. Horrible. It's the most awful story. Oh my
They
God.
separate the hemispheres, so they're not communicating. And some people eventually get some of their senses back, but it's a crapshoot. Basically, back in the old days, if you got any kind of an issue that people don't like, it's all about just keeping
Snip,
you
snip.
quiet
Right.
or drugging you so you're not causing a problem to anybody.
Well, and like we said, we're not talking the 1800s. We're talking the 1980s. They were still
Oh,
doing
yeah.
this. I mean, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They were still shocking people and giving them lobotomies and all sorts of stuff.
They still shock people.
They just your children, or
No. Electroconvulsive therapy. Can be effective for people with severe depression as a last hope.
as a last hope. Sweet
Yeah,
Lord.
you don't flail. They give you things to paralyze
You're
your
not
body.
flashing
So
around.
no, so you're not flailing, and they can do it with chemicals too.
Interesting.
So they give you a shot. But I think it's still around. It's not used very often, but
Thank goodness for that, at least.
I mean, it's the last resort to keep someone alive from harming themselves, I guess.
There is a moment which I found hilarious in retrospect, because mullet guy gets lost in the dark tunnels and he's afraid of the dark. He suffers from nyctophobia. But he makes it out, runs out to the truck, is eating an Oreo, and then he's talking to like the camera basically. "Oh, hey, this guy came out here for a breath of fresh air. I got an Oreo." One of those moments.
No,
Later,
but I knew it was Gordon because right before he dies, he opens his arms like he's going to give someone a hug. And who else would he give a hug to?
oh, that's interesting. But when they cut to like the other view, when you see Gordon is clearly dipped in blood. It's like somebody splashed him with blood, and his nephew is now like, "Whoa, are you okay? What happened?" There's no moment like that at all.
Again, he is baked, rolling around in his uncle's car, eating Oreos. He's got the munchies. So his observational skills are a little numbed.
Very sad. Very sad. So we are under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is not a supernatural film. This is a psychological film, right?
It wasn't until the end when I was like, oh.
Right. Right.
You don't know. I mean, he could be possessed. But basically, it's the tape that tells you what's happened. It's someone else's story cluing you in on what's happening.
But they kind of made it like the tape tried to make it seem like this is some malevolent entity that jumps from the weak and the broken, which I don't think that's it at all.
No.
I think that was just for whatever reason. They said Gordon's been struggling for a while and he really needs this job. He botched the last 2 bids, so the company's about to go bankrupt, and he's got a child with an earache and an angry wife making pasta.
I'm just going to tell you that, I mean, I'm not a Scientologist, but
Here
you don't develop multiple personalities because work is hard.
He did
We're
not
talking
develop
sincere.
multiple personalities, first of all. Sweet
Oh,
Jesus.
I mean, you may kill your family over money, but you don't develop multiple personalities over this. It comes from like severe, like childhood trauma.
But could it be?
Severe.
Could it be he snapped for whatever reason?
No,
And
snapping is not multiple personality.
No, he snaps, and then his mind is now shattered from that trauma. What he had done at home has now scrambled his brain, and now that's where like it's something else. I don't know.
It's not an instant thing. It's something that builds over as a protection. So you literally just kind of drift into this to protect yourself.
Is this your expert medical opinion, doctor? Should I be taking notes or?
I have watched. First, I watched United States of Terror back in the day.
That's
I
something.
have seen Sybil multiple times.
Multiple times.
And of course, along with cults, I do enjoy anything related to abnormal psychology.
Interesting.
Those are my credentials. I'm going to put it on my resume.
Please do. I think it's important. Do you have any other last thoughts or feelings before we go on to behind the scenes?
Yeah, I can't figure out David Caruso's character.
He was just a dick.
He's just a dick, but
Right.
they clearly were good friends. And how
Yes.
fast did he turn?
Well, I think
like you're like, oh, Gordon's clearly out of control. We're taking. How are you going to take over the project? He's the contractor.
right.
He's going to get paid.
He's got the license.
He's the dude with the license. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
This takes place in Massachusetts, so maybe there are different rules there. Anything goes. Survival of the fittest. Is that possible?
It was filmed in Massachusetts.
Well, they talked about Lowell. Like in your house in Lowell, that's a city in Massachusetts.
It was all very This Old House. If you ever watched that back in the day, they were always doing
Bob Vila. Yes,
Bob
it was.
Vila.
It
Where's
was
Norm? Oh my god! Oh my god! What if? Okay, first Tim Allen's Tool Time is a total ripoff of This Old House.
Absolutely.
So this is the next step in the This Old House evolution, except it's all the cast of characters of This Old House working on an insane asylum as Bob Vila slowly goes insane.
So it's This Old Asylum, is what you're saying.
So, my question is Norm David Caruso, or is he the guy who discovers the tapes? It's one or the other.
That's the question.
Yeah.
We may never know the answer to these questions.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I would tune in for that shit. No doubt.
Shall we go behind the scenes?
Please, let's do it. All I know is behind the scenes is that it was filmed at Danvers in Massachusetts at a real abandoned insane asylum.
Only 3 rooms had additions outside of the natural setting for atmosphere. The kitchen had meat hooks hung from it. Now, why would there be meat hooks in the kitchen?
There would not be meat hooks.
Very strange.
They're hanging meat.
Is this Leatherface's kitchen? I mean,
I assume insane asylums have high school quality food in their cafeteria. So we're buying sides of beef and everybody's eating steak tonight.
Who's to say? The tunnel had plastic surgical gloves hung up, yes. And the hydrotherapy room had a metal tub added. That's all they did to the setting. Everything else.
I'm looking around. I'm like, this is all real. This is all real.
Almost everything else related to the asylum setting was found on site as the crew scoured the building for set dressing to keep things authentic.
All you needed was lighting. You needed electricity and lighting. That's all you needed. It was perfect.
The filmmakers even reported finding old patient tissue and blood samples on the premises, which they did not film. They did not film them out of fear. So there you go.
Getting hepatitis or
that's exactly right.
Or consumption or whatever.
Actor David Caruso reports in the official production notes that he saw something pass by his window when shooting inside the
It
Bonner
was
Medical
his
Building.
career.
I didn't want to tell anybody because people would start looking at me strangely. Actor Peter Mullen also reports strange happenings on the sets. He claims that while filming on the roof, a voice in his head told him to jump off to see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
The building brought out a morbid kind of overactive curiosity. Interesting. He did not jump off the building, so that's good. Behind the tunnel with the rubber gloves, the cast and crew signed the wall. Brad Anderson, the director, wrote, "We did as best as we could."
Whatever.
But a bump.
Whatever.
Hours of during the scene shot outside Danvers,
Sorry,
when
you said they vandalized it.
they
Is that what you said?
vandalized it. And by the way, all the graffiti you see in the building was just there. That wasn't anything that they added. The scene where outside where Bill and Gordon are discussing the bid for the asbestos abatement job, a student pilot was flying circles overhead for about 3 hours. This forced the talent and crew to film the sequence in spurts, starting when the plane was furthest away and stopping as it grew nearer.
This is Band-Aids and rubber band production.
Wah, wah, wah.
You know, they could have filmed that scene inside.
They could have, or just how about just some ADR? Just go into the studio afterwards. You're good. You're good.
They got money for that. What'd this cost? $100,000?
50 cents. The fictional Patricia Willard scandal at Danvers State Hospital, cited by Mike, strongly appears to have been inspired by the real-life wave of problematic Satanism and sex abuse allegations that swept across the United States during the 1980s.
These were a great time. Every preschool was burying children in the backyard. I remember William told me there was a kid messing with him, but that his teacher bopped him on the head and buried him in the backyard. And so I told his teacher that. He didn't think that was funny at all.
What was that, the McMartin?
It's the McMartin.
School?
Well, preschool's expensive, so sometimes you just have to roll the dice with your McMartin inspired.
Sometimes you have to. It's like Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, where you just drop off your kid at the pedophile and just cross your fingers. I mean, you just got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Hope for the best.
There was a large subplot that was ultimately cut out involving a homeless woman who lived and lurked among the building and the workers. They eventually deleted it because people watching the show thought that was like the ghost of Mary Hobbs or whatever, the patient. So they thought it was too confusing. Who's to say?
All right.
The grave markers in the cemetery and the doors in the morgue were made out of styrofoam. The morgue was cleared out already, so they had to bring in their own props, I'm sad to say. So that's about it. Good times.
I'm very disappointed. How come we don't have any? All these movies, there's always an abandoned insane asylum and haunted cemetery in every single town, and they all look like they belong in like Gotham.
Yes.
They're on a cliff with an angry ocean, lightning is striking. You always have to go in the middle of the night to look for the files.
That was Malignant. That was the Malignant thing. Right. It's $20 million mansion on a cliff overlooking the water. Let's put Insane Asylum there instead. That sounds great.
Converted into condos. It's been abandoned for 50 years.
Right. No question. I read this article about these developers, I think it was like in Pennsylvania, who bought an abandoned school for like pennies and turned it into condos.
Absolutely.
Made a fortune. So, good thinking. Why can't we do that with our insane asylums, right? Standing empty. Scoop out that asbestos.
We need to reopen them. California got too loosey-goosey. Not everybody needs to be living on the streets or in my backyard.
I don't disagree. Let's talk about the cast and crew, shall we?
David Caruso.
Well, at first, let's talk about the director/writer, Brad Anderson. He's known for Session 9, Trans-Siberian, The Machinist,
Wait,
Next Stop.
Trans-Siberian Railway?
Could be. Who's to say? I don't know. And then the cast, number one with a bullet, David Caruso played Phil. That was the name I couldn't remember. You know him from First Blood, Proof of Life.
Wait, Rambo First Blood?
Yes, he was in the first movie.
I never saw that.
It was a good one. It's arguably the best Rambo movie is First Blood. It was first.
I mean, beyond Rocky, I think I've only ever seen like Nighthawks.
With Billy D. Williams and Rutger Hauer?
I've seen that
Classic.
1,000. I don't want to tell you this, but I've seen it about 1,000 times. So that, and then the Taco Bell Future movie. I think that
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
There are many good Stallone movies, by the way.
I mean, the first Rocky is fine, but I find more interest in Jackie Stallone at this point.
Doesn't she tell fortunes or something? Predicts the future.
I just remember her 80s headband. It was like braided across.
It's a classy move, no question.
Classy move.
For 1 year, 93-94, he was Detective John Kelly on NYPD Blue before he bounced to start his illustrious movie career. So
with Jade. Yeah, he thought he was going to be real big shit, and instead he just took one.
Whoa! Shots fired.
Well, I mean,
I don't disagree, though.
all I can tell you is most people don't burn the bridge quite that soon.
I mean, it was one season. He was the star of the show.
He was
gone.
Michael Moriarty did.
It's like if Shelley Long bounced after the first season of Cheers.
He's like, deuces, losers, I'm out.
I'm out of here.
And then you never heard from her again.
I mean, people blasted her for leaving. She did Cheers for like 6 years or something. And it was like, I'm going to go do movies. We're like, oh, you fool. What were you thinking?
Hey, can you name some of those movies?
Troop Beverly Hills.
Oh, Jesus. Exactly.
Need I say more? Stephen Gevedon, I'm sure I'm messing up his name, played Mike, the guy who's listening to all the recordings. Mm-hmm. You know him from, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Session 9, Smoke, War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, and 13. I don't know what that is. 13.
He just does movies. Oh, wait. It seems to me like I know 13. But he just does movies with numbers. Is that it?
That's part of his thing.
All right. Keep talking. I'm gonna Google.
Let's see. Paul Guilfoyle played Bill. He's been in a ton of stuff. He was in Mickey Cohen in L.A. Confidential. He was in Air Force One as the chief of staff. He was he's on The Good Fight. You ever watch that show? He was in Primary Colors. He's been in 10,000 things. He was the guy who was trying to hire them.
Oh, it's about a 13-year-old, and Holly Hunter is in it.
There you go. Josh Lucas played
Hanks, you might say.
Oh, I got more than enough of that already. Josh Lucas played Hank. He's been in a ton of stuff. He was in Ford versus Ferrari.
Never saw it.
That was a good one. He was in Sweet Home Alabama. He was in Glory Road. He's currently on Yellowstone. Do you ever watch Yellowstone?
No. What am I? 100 years old?
Maybe. Who's to say?
I saw a crazy lady who sings songs on it. She wears bell bottoms and she's country or something. It was literally the worst concert. Randy Newman in 1979 singing Short People was an illustrious concert compared to Yellowstone Lady.
Okay.
I can't even tell you any song she sang, but I was like, I'm going to need some more wine.
Peter Mullen played Gordon Fleming, ostensibly the main character, and he's like 6th build. You know him.
He looked really familiar.
Yeah, he's I think he's English or Scottish. Let me look it up. I could find out.
He was trying to roll some Irish biz. Speaking of the Irish.
Well, here it is. He was I remember him from Braveheart. He had like lines where he was saying like, I didn't come all this way to die for these lords. We're going home, boys, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
I didn't even remember that. I saw Braveheart, and then I never saw it again.
Because Braveheart's a
Do you
great
just
movie.
do you just have it on loop? And then there was the horrible try to carry on with that Rob Roy or whatever. That was the worst. That was so
It came out
disgusting.
about the same time.
Yeah.
He.
I read a whole article about that.
Hang on
but
a second. God damn it.
You have to set a timer, and you get one beep, and then it just turns to scalding, and your flesh just washes away.
He.
What I was going to tell you, I read this article about Hollywood,
Yes.
and people know what's in the pipe. So if they know that there's like a big production with a certain theme coming down the pipe, they will rush something similar
Right.
into production.
Right.
So
well,
I think
oftentimes
that's
there are two
the problem.
competing visions are coming out. You have like Deep Impact and Armageddon. You got Wyatt Earp and Tombstone. You got Volcano and Dante's Peak. There's literally been 10,000 situations where this occurred. The Rob Roy Braveheart thing.
That's
So
probably
bizarre.
at least Braveheart was nominated for something or other. I mean, come on, Deep Impact, Armageddon. I just remember the dude who was in Rob Roy was also in. Oh my god,
Liam Neeson.
no, not Liam Neeson. The other guy who I used to think he was so cute. He was in Pulp Fiction.
Tim Roth.
Tim Roth makes one of the most disgusting comments in Rob Roy, and I was like, I'm out.
That was it. No more.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me continue. Peter Mullen. You know him from the Magdalene Sisters,
No.
Tyrannosaur, Children of Men, Warhorse.
I heard Children of Men was good. I've never seen it, but Tyrannosaur sounds
Yes.
like some kind of herpes.
Lately,
It's the king of sores.
he was in
Terrible
exactly
sore.
of
Terrible
sore.
sore.
He was in the first season of Westworld on HBO.
Oh, who did he play in Westworld?
He was oh god. I remember he was somebody's father, like the owner of the company, who was later revealed to have been a robot in like a glass room that they'd go in and talk to. That was him.
Oh, no, that's what's his name who was in
It's not Anthony Hopkins. It was a different.
No, but they hired someone, and he's a very famous actor. He's bald. He's been in some of the space movies. But he kind of looks like the cowboy Yul Brynner from the original Westworld, and it's driving me crazy.
No, Ed Harris is a different character. Ed Harris is a totally different character.
Frozen, and they keep waking up.
I'm talking about season 1.
Okay.
Season 1. Anyway,
it's all a blur. Whatever.
He was also on Ozark. Did you ever watch Ozark? He was one of the hillbillies who were growing poppies until his crazy wife murders him. So he's still working. He's working more than I've seen him more than I've seen Caruso, in all honesty. So God bless him, everyone. Shall we talk about the rating?
All right.
Are you ready? Session 9, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, has, and I'm building up the suspense. Are you ready? Buckle up. 66% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know what the audience gave it?
Dude, that's what I'm going to do now in class. When someone gets a D, I'm like, 66% fresh.
Well, it's basically anything above a 60 is considered fresh. So there you go. What do you think the audience gave it to?
58.
63.
Oh my god.
63. Let me look at the top critics. Peter Travers from Rolling Stone gave it 4 out of 5, saying a spine tingler.
Okay.
There you go.
It better be it better be the tingler, because
the tingler
getting tingled in this.
And
you're like, what the F's happening?
I have a review from our favorite reviewer, Rex Reed. He says, despite the talent involved and the unbearable atmosphere of the asylum, the script is a letdown. The final resolution is more ludicrous than convincing. There you go.
I mean, Rex Reed tells it like it is. At least he doesn't tie a ribbon out at the end. I don't know if it's ludicrous,
It
but
is ludicrous.
that reminds me of Ludicrousmas. I would say it just wasn't that interesting.
Oh, I disagree. Well, give me your rating, and I'll give you mine.
All right. I'm going to give it, because it's not terrible. It's just, I'm ambivalent. That's worst. I mean, at least if you hate it, you have some kind of an emotion. I have no emotion for this. I mean, I guess I should give it a 3 because I don't hate it. But to me, it was just a lot of waiting, and then the end is just a coincidence that we're listening to a tape about multiple personalities, and then okay, this guy
So,
has multiple personalities, but people with multiple personalities don't kill people usually.
well, okay. So here's my question to you: was it the ending that turned into a 3 out of 5?
It was the whole package. It was
Okay.
the slow build up when I'm sitting there. I'm like, you sons of bitches, something better. I mean, there were funny moments. There was a couple of creepy moments, but just the whole package. I mean, I should give it less than a 3, but you get into hatred and anger, and that's way too emotional. I'm just totally ambivalent.
That is
So I'm
so
gonna give it
interesting to me.
3 out of 5 lobotomies because I feel a little lobotomized thinking about this.
I don't know if I want to give it a 4. So I'm going to say a 3.75 out of 5 probes to the eye with the wiggledy diggle.
You can't be a coppity cat.
I'm doing my own thing. I can do as I damn well please.
The same thing, you son of a.
I said it more interestingly. No, I mean, I was in. I was really in. I thought it was good. Mood. I thought the suspense was kind of interesting. I was digging it. Now I watched it at 8:30 on a Saturday morning, broad daylight. So I wasn't like terrified.
Yeah.
Wasn't terrified by anything. I liked the buildup. Now I would argue that the ending, when you realize it's just the dude's gone nuts for reasons not fully explained, and it has nothing to do with, there's no haunting, there's no supernatural stuff. It's just kind of, that definitely puts a little bit of a damper on it. A little bit.
The two stories are not related. I kept waiting. Is this the brother? The brother wasn't really dead, and now I'm like, maybe it's the girl. Maybe the girl has become trans and is now trying to hunt people down at the hospital, getting revenge. And
there's some troglodytes living underneath in the sewers below.
I kept trying to put this together so it would make sense. I kept trying to figure out, how is people from the story on the tape related to this? Instead, it is basically, this is what's happening to this dude. Bruh.
Yeah, and it could have happened anywhere. In retrospect, I think that it's a little too cute. You know what I mean? I would have liked it better if he had been possessed, like his own whatever the shit he's going through left himself open to being possessed by the evil Simon character.
This could have been The Ring, and instead of putting on a reel-to-reel, this was on VHS tapes, and the guy who goes crazy has been hired to install the pool. This could have been anywhere.
Installed the pool, exactly.
We're going to give you an Olympic-sized pool, and we can do it. Okay, it was going to be like a month, but in 3 days, me and my cousin, cousin Willie, are going to come over here and give you a pool. And he's underbid, killed his family, and now, he's clearing up the house.
And Willie's constantly in the library listening to tapes instead of doing like that was the other thing.
He is in charge of the construction.
That is correct, because it was like the dude listening to tapes. He wasn't the murderer. No. He didn't have. It was just kind of like I don't know. I'm a true crime buff. What can I say? I just like to listen.
He kept pretending that the power was going out so he could sit downstairs for hours listening to these tapes instead of working.
That's exactly right.
So that's
Again,
what you get. Being
they're
a
looking
slacker.
for Hank, who could be injured. And he's like, I'm going to go, did you hear that? I'm going to go down into this dark hall to secretly listen to my tapes instead of finding my buddy Hank, who could be dead right now. So
And
there
listen,
you have
you
it.
son of a bitch, you could have just packed all that shit up, put it in your truck. How about that?
You son of a bitch.
All
So,
these people would not be dead
yes.
if they just followed Aaron's advice. Just put it in your pocket. Just put it in your lunchbox. Nobody needs to be doing any of this nonsense.
Well, Mullety Mulletson got killed eating an Oreo. So, I mean, I don't know if it was a cure-all if you just start stealing shit and running off with it.
That's a life lesson. If your crazy uncle comes up to you like they just swam through the English Channel filled with blood,
Yes.
don't look out for the big bear hug. I
Don't
mean,
do
that's
it.
just Darwin. That was some Darwin business right there. He needed
Well-
to be out of the gene pool.
Right. And that was one of those moments where you're just like, okay, come on, bro. It's like there's certain times in these movies where they film things where, you know, from an audience standpoint, oh, clearly this was only filmed this way to fool the audience. Whereas if this was really happening, it would make no sense at all. So neither here nor there. So thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast, TW Die. We're on Facebook at the Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Aaron, TikTok, Instagram, what's going on?
Yes, TikTok and Instagram, the podcast that wouldn't die.
And YouTube, the podcast. It's actually at TPodcast, TW Die there as well. So you can check that out. Good
Are you
times.
telling me the podcast that wouldn't die was taken? So you had to do your TWQRMR.
No, because it's easier to write TPodcast, TW Die than write the podcast that wouldn't die. Do I use an
Versus-
apostrophe?
Versus my email, which is join.the.call.of.aaron.
Yes. By then, people have already thrown themselves off a bridge. Oh, sweet Jesus. So you can watch us, or you can listen to us, and you can listen to us. You can take both experiences, and they're very different, let me tell you. Also,
your TV, put that on and put your Alexa on. We can have the battle.
the
Get
battle.
off the house.
And if you're so inclined, while you're checking out the podcast that wouldn't die on YouTube, for free, you get all the back videos of the B Movie Club. So you can enjoy that
now
as well.
that's a charmer. Be sure to
That's a
check out
charmer.
our episode of Wings of Desire.
Please do not. Sweet
That was a
Jesus.
classic.
You can also email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail.
Email.
We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you? For goodness
Won't you
sakes.
please?
Aaron, you have social media. Give us the lowdown.
I am on the Instagram. I am the Cultivarin. I am also Don't Feed the Pigeon. Enjoy. Where else am I? We already talked about the ticker. I'm in charge of running the Ticker Talker, which if you had seen that, it's clearly me play with every mother effing filter that
Yep.
the TikTok has brought to us. The more terrifying, the better. AR will destroy the country. It's just a matter of time. You can buy my art on Artsy and First Dibs, Aaron Doherty, in the Instant Dreams Gallery. Boom.
Dynamite.
Indeed.
Next week, we'll be discussing the horror, sci-fi, comedy. It's really kind of a social activism movie as well. The Thing with Two Heads, starring Ray Milland and Rosie Greer. So,
I've never seen that.
well, you're in for a treat, let me tell you. The tagline for this movie is, they thought it was a good idea at the time. So there you go. You
That's the
can
beginning of every great story.
absolutely. You can watch The Thing with Two Heads on something called FlixFling. So you can get a
I'm gonna download another one of these son of a bitch apps to watch this.
Other people do, but you don't, because remember I gave you a free copy of the movie on Blu-ray.
I'm not digging my Blu-ray out of the closet on top of all the movies I haven't watched in 10 years and I have my TV mounted, so then it would have to hang from a cord just loose. I don't
What
know
is
how to
happening? Are you living in an asylum? Or
do
should you be living in an asylum is the next question. Sweet.
Like our brother-in-law said, do you still use physical media? Is that correct?
Some would argue. So check that out. Send any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show. So thank you very much, and be well.
Be well, children.
Nanu, nanu.
Yeah.